business, as the enforcements in business generally is flexibility and adaptability. So if not everyone is here when we hope they'd be here, we'll just carry on without them. Okay, let's make a start then. Welcome to all of you. Thank you for investing your time. I don't mean investing your time, because your time is important, as is Meese's, as is Wee Ming's, as is mine. But nonetheless, you have decided it is worth investing your time for up to an hour and a half this evening to find out more about this organization called Toastmasters in relation to the very important part, or almost you might say the vital part, of playing roles at Toastmaster meetings. I'm going to be asking each of you in a few minutes' time to just share with all of us exactly what your Toastmasters experience is, because I know you're all new members, joined in the last few months, but some of you have literally joined in the last few weeks. So it'd be good to know exactly where each of you stand so that I can try to adapt one or two parts of the session to fit that. But I'm now going to share some slides with you so that you can look at something other than just looking at me. So let's get to share slides. So Wee Ming, I'm now sharing my slides with people, as in this.
Yep.
You can see the main slides. Hopefully go into slide view in just a second. You can see the full slide now. Yeah.
Yes, all good, Jeff.
All of you can see the slides.
Yeah.
Right. So at least it means that my image is only this big instead of this big. So that's good for you. What I'd like to do, and I've gone to the end of my slides rather than the beginning, so let's just get out of that and go to the beginning. The beginning is always the best place to start, I think, rather than the end. Would you not agree? Yeah, I'm sure you would agree. So this is an online workshop about role playing, specifically within Toastmasters, and even more specifically within MIM Toastmasters Club of Kuala Lumpur. There will obviously be slight differences at some other Toastmasters clubs, because although we're all part of the same worldwide organization of some 14,000 clubs in 140 plus countries, each club is a law unto itself. We all sign up to following the constitution of Toastmasters, and we all follow the same education program. But the way we each run our club meetings, as I say, if you've got 14,000 clubs and you've got 140 countries, people are going to have different views on certain things, and it's right that they should have. So some of the role-playing aspects that we undertake at MIMKL will be slightly different, just slightly at the margins, from what even some other clubs in Malaysia may do, and certainly some other clubs, be they in China or Australia or UK or USA. But we'll concentrate tonight particularly on how we do things at MIMKL. We think, because we're a club with 35 years of tradition, of heritage, of background, we think we do everything perfectly right. Isn't that right, Meesy? We do everything perfectly right in MIM.
You
disagree if you want to.
We try,
yeah.
Strive to do it.
Because, I mean, Meesy is our president this year, but we've had 35 other presidents since 1987, and not everyone will see life or see Toastmasters exactly as Meesy sees it. And he is perfectly entitled to adjust things at the edges. But if he goes way out of line, we have someone like Ramdas Nair, who I think you have all met now. Ramdas Nair was one of our founder members, what we call charter members, back in August 1987, a very distinguished past president of our club. and past district governor for all clubs in Malaysia. So someone like Ramdas will have a quick word in Mizi's ear and say, Mizi, my friend. And Mizi is, Ramdas is a very diplomatic sort of guy. He doesn't like conflict. He will say very nicely to Mizi, Mizi, could we do things a bit like what we did them last year and the year before and the year before that and for the previous 35 years? And Mizi, being the intelligent guy that he is, will say, yes, Ramdas, certainly Ramdas, I will do exactly what you ask. And that conversation will go something like that, maybe not to the precise words, but basically our club will do things our way, but we'll try to do it in the right way. So in this evening's workshop, I want to go through some things about how we do things in MIM. I call it, and not only is it me calling it wearing many hats as a Toastmaster, but this is a phrase which Toastmasters International itself has coined, because you could say that all the different types of role we play in a Toastmasters meeting over the course of a year, and certainly in the course of 35 years, it will resemble the wearing of many hats. And each one of us, as a Toastmaster within MIMKL, will wear as many of those hats as possible, as many times as possible over the course of time. So we'll go through that. Then we'll go to some of the important roles, which I believe you should all, and I'll assume it is 7 of us. I know right at this very moment it isn't quite 7 of us, but all 7 of you should, in my view, be trying out these roles. And our Vice President of Education, Hui Ling, who has apologized to me just a couple of hours ago, the fact that she's still at the office and is a bit tied up with her real life, which is earning her salary. So she isn't able to join us this evening, but you will find that Hui Ling is a very adaptable person and a very helpful person. I've known her for 20 years now, and she will try to help each of you to wear as many hats as possible over the next year. Then we look at, towards the end, how to develop your skills and experience within Toastmasters in order to help the club, but also to help yourselves. Because Toastmasters, in many ways, is a microcosm of life, a microcosm of our lives in business, and things that we learn to do in Toastmasters and that we practice doing in Toastmasters will help us in our business lives as well. So some suggestions as to how to develop your skills and your experience for your benefit. So that's what we're aiming to do over the next approximately 80 minutes. Now, what I think would be useful to start off with is if each of you introduce yourselves, just briefly, 1 minute perhaps, because you haven't got a very significant level of experience yet, so it shouldn't take too long to describe it. So tell us what or when you first joined Toastmasters, rather than me saying you've all joined within the last few months. Say, I joined in September, or I joined in December, or whatever. Tell us what roles you've played already in that fairly limited period of time that you've been a member, and what you have got out of playing those roles. Then later in the discussion, we can try to take advantage of your experience to share amongst all of us in the room. After each of the 7 of you, or 4 of you, as the case may be, have explained your experience in MIMKL Toastmasters, I will ask both Wiming and Mizi, as the experienced members in the house, even though Mizi has only been a member for less than 2 years, and Wiming, is it 3 years, is it you've been a member, Wiming?
No, Jeff. I only joined about 1 year plus.
Oh,
Just slightly shorter than our president.
Right. Okay. Well, I was trying to build you up more than that wants to be built up. But nonetheless, your experience explained to all of us in the room, in the
Correct.
Zoom call tonight, will be valuable. So I'd like to go through all of you, the brand new members, your experience, and then go on to Wee Ming, and then go on to Mizi. And yeah, I'll probably have a few words at the end of that. But I promise you, I will not multiply by the number of years I've been a member to provide the number of minutes of experience explanations I will give. Because if I said to you that I've just entered my 25th year as a member of MIMKL Toastmasters Club, your reaction is going to be, ooh, ah, wow, or something like that. But does that experience of being a member for nearly 25 years mean that I am an expert? What is your answer? You can
It's
turn
never
on.
enough.
Sorry, say that again.
My thought is it's never enough. You always learn something new in this.
Absolutely right. That would be my answer as well. I don't consider myself an expert, even though I have had these 25 years of learning and practicing within Toastmasters. But I will perhaps add a few things on after you, the brand new members, and Wee Ming and Mizi have explained your experience. So who is going to start us off amongst the brand new members? Remember, when did you join? What roles have you played so far, and what benefits have you had, or what experiences have you had in that time? Who's going to start us off? Don't be shy. You're a Toastmaster. You can't be shy.
I can take one quickly. So
Uh,
hi, yeah, Naren here.
Okay, Naren, please. Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Naren, been with Toastmasters little less than 3 months, I'll say, because of the timing. Start date was here there, because I also joined Toastmasters in South Africa, but
Oh.
unfortunately I only became member and never went to any of those classes. So now that was a confusion. So ideally this is my real Toastmasters joining.
Okay. And what roles have you played, Naren? I mean, I've
So
seen
far,
the various
timer.
meetings.
Yeah, so far I played timer. I did participate in a few table topics,
Yeah.
not as a table topics master or evaluator, but just participated in table topic. And I was planning to do the AHA counter, but then I have to take my son for a class on Saturday morning. So I did request someone to take that role for this time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Naren, for sharing. Who is next?
I could go next.
I don't have
So-
all the pictures on screen at the moment. Who's that?
All right,
speaking?
it's Madana.
Hey, hi, Madonna. Yeah.
Hi.
Please go ahead.
So when you mentioned brand new earlier, and I think I'm as new as it gets. So Mizi has pushed me. I joined 2 weeks ago, and
Right.
Mizi has just pushed me to get on to get delivering my speech this weekend before even doing any of these roles. So
Right.
I've only heard of these roles, never played them myself. So familiar with the I've heard about the R counters and timers. So
Yeah.
looking forward to hearing and learning more on those roles.
Okay. We look forward to helping you learn, Madonna. Thank you very much. And the next person is going to be How Fan, perhaps?
Yeah.
Or go.
Jeff.
How Fan.
How fun you can go.
Okay, sure. So hi everyone. Hi Jeff. So I just joined last week. Yeah, last week. But actually I've been in Toastmaster since 2017 until 2020, which is about 3 years there back in Johor Bahru. So I
Wow.
know a bit of things here and there. And I even play. Having been there for 3 years, I definitely say I play all the roles: counter, table topic master, Toastmaster of the evening. We call it Toastmaster evening, not Toastmaster of the day.
Right.
and doing speeches and that whatsoever. I even be the club president and stuff. But still, I feel like after having been quitting Toastmaster for 3 years, I feel like I'm as good as a baby in this club. So in MIM, I only took part in one paper topic, and just last international speech contest, I am one of the sergeant in arm.
Yeah.
Practically nothing else. And about Darren's request just now, I think I'm okay to volunteer to be the art counter for the upcoming meeting. So
good. Right.
yeah, I've learned a lot of things, but I think I'm like way far from being a proper and good Toastmaster. So I really look forward to learn in this club.
Yeah, that's great, How Fun. Thank you. Well, in this room tonight, with the exception of myself, you are the most experienced Toastmaster here. So you have more experience than we Ming and Measy. So we'll bow to your superior knowledge on some things.
No, treat me like a baby. Thank you.
So thank you for sharing, How Fun. By the way, which club in JB were you a member of?
JB North Toastmaster Club. I'm not
JB
sure.
North.
It's under a university, but it's also a community club, not a student club.
Because years gone by, I used to know all the clubs in JB because we.
I think she was that club was under the tutelage of Miss Yasota. I'm also not sure we heard her before. Miss Yasota.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to act as judge for some of the speaking contests down in JB a long time ago. All right, thank you, Hafan. Golan, next, please.
Yeah. Hi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gulam Sarwar. You guys can call me Sarwar. I'm basically from Bangladesh, and I came to know about the Toastmaster less than a month now. And I have joined MIMKL 2 weeks. Tamizi has pushed me to onboard me to this club. And actually, I have joined the last 2 week session in Times Square, but I haven't done any role play.
Okay.
Yet, but I'm looking forward to know how to be part of this one.
Okay, that's great, Golan. Thank you very much. Has anyone else joined us since we were?
You've got Kirtana. Kirtana.
Who's here?
Kirtana is here.
Oh, Katana then. Hi, Katana.
She's our youngest member. Kaja, can you switch on the video, please?
Yes. Hello.
Hi there. I don't know whether you joined us at the time I was explaining what I wanted everyone to do in this brief early session. I was wanting the new members to say when they joined MIM Toastmasters Club, what roles you have performed at meetings so far, and what you benefited, what you gained from the experience. So please share with us, Katana.
I joined Toastmasters Club since like 2 weeks ago, around like the early January 2023. I've never joined any Toastmasters activities, but I like came as a guest last week for the speech contest. I think that was the only time that I joined the Toastmaster activities.
Right, so I better not ask too many questions as to what you thought about the contest in case I get embarrassed. Because one thing that many people, when they first attend the Toastmasters contest, think is, I don't agree with the judge's decision. So you may have been one such person who didn't agree with the judge's decision, but for the moment, I'll go along with what the judges did decide, whether it was right or wrong. I'll live with it. So thank you, Katana, for introducing yourself. So we still don't have Jacqueline or Ahmed, is that right? Yeah.
Yes, we had haven't contact. They couldn't be reached.
Oh, okay.
Huiling is in the room also.
Who is?
Huiling.
Oh, Huiling is here. Oh, she's be able to be here. Okay. Well, Huiling, can I keep you on one side for just a couple of minutes? I'll ask Wei Ming first to share with us his experience for all of 1 year plus, and then I'll go on to Mizi, and then I'll come to Huiling as the most experienced Toastmaster apart from myself on the call tonight. So Wei Ming, would you like to share with us about your experience as a role player over many, many meetings? Wei Ming.
Yes, Jeff, Wiming here, the Vice President of Membership. I joined Toastmaster in year 2021 during the pandemic in the month of November. So it's more like 1 year, 2 months kind of the timeline, the time that I'm with Toastmaster. Basically, my mentor ensured me that I need to take all the 7 roles. I have completed all the 7 roles within the 6 months periods, and also learn a lot from these 6 months with all the different roles, and also continue to take up any role if I don't take up any speech. So one of the experience that I want to share with the team here is that every role we get to learn something, and every role will test and also give us the opportunity to improve our listening, improve our leadership, and also improve our, we call it focus. I mean, it's difficult to stay focused, especially online, but that's also something that I can see that taking a role in each of the meeting will definitely enable me to learn something and also stay on focus. So that will be my sharing for all the new members here. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Wei Ming. I mean, what you said just now about making sure that we learn from our experience and use that learning is vitally important. I think any Toastmaster who tries to pretend that they've taken all the roles but haven't learned anything from their experience, I think they are either lying to themselves or lying to the rest of us when they say that. So thank you, Wei Ming, for that. Now, Mizi, Mr. President, what do you have to say about your relatively brief experience in Toastmasters and what roles you've been playing?
I've been 1.5 years, actually, 1 year, 6 months. I'm enjoying it every moment. I love role playing because other than doing your project speeches, taking roles is where you learn how to give speeches and how to interact. And also, an experienced Toastmaster told me, and I've kept it on my mind, and that's what I use. Being a role player, it's a role of value. You add value not only to yourself, but to the audience. So each role is very important. Each role is very important. Again, it is not a chore. It's a position of value. You add value. Over to you, Jeff.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Mizi, for that very brief description. But I mean, it's so pertinent, though. It's so relevant. And I think we should all bear Mizi's comment in mind that we should indeed regard any role we play as an opportunity to add value to our own experience, but particularly add value to all the other people in the room, whichever of the roles that we'll be discussing later, that will still apply. The amount of value you add may differ from role to role, but the fact that there will be some value you add is unmistakable and cannot be denied. So thank you very much, Mizi, for that. Now, Mizi, now Hui Ling, our current VPE, has been a member of Toastmasters. I think, Hui Ling, it's now going up to 20 years, isn't it? Both at MIM Club and at Premier Advanced Club. Have I got the timeline right? Hui Ling, we can't hear you.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Yes, I joined MIM in, I guess, 2003 or 2004. Yeah. But I'm still not a Polish speaker, but I still stay in Toastmasters because definitely, as shared by others, that's there's always something to learn from every meeting, even from playing different roles. As mentioned as shared by Wiming, every role does help us to sharpen our leadership skills, especially the soft skills. For example, there are 4 key roles. For example, for timer, by being a timer, we train ourselves to be punctual. In fact, you will realize most Toastmasters are punctual. Our counter will train us for our listening skills. So each evaluator role will help us to in our listening skill as well, and as well as how to give feedback, because giving feedback is also a leadership, a skillful thing that we can learn. Last but not least, Toastmaster of the Day. I think that is a role which will be very good, because how to coordinate, that role will build confidence, and how to coordinate, like to be the host of a meeting. So in fact, Toastmaster of the Day is an important role where we know how to, it is an MC role basically. So every role is important, and I encourage all the new members to take up the roles. Definitely, there's no regret. In fact, right now, if I have time, I don't mind to even take timer and our counter role, because definitely every meeting is a learning and growing experience. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Freeling, for sharing that way, because I mean, obviously, I realised earlier this evening when you said you were still at the office, I realised, well, we can manage this workshop without you, but it's going to be far better for the participants if they learn from you directly rather than just from me. So thank you very much for well, taking the trouble and taking the time to be with us instead of being at the office for a few minutes. And it's obviously up to you as to how long you can remain with us for this workshop. But you said the key things already, the importance of learning from each and every role we play. And it may be leadership skills we learn, it may be listening skills we learn, maybe just organizational skills we learn. But whatever it is, we will learn. And if we can take it from Hui Ling just now, that her experience tells us that we will learn if we give ourselves the chance to learn. And giving ourselves a chance is what this is about. This is, I mean, obviously I'm not an artist, so this isn't my graphic, but it sort of represents the phrase which Toastmasters has used for many, many years, the fact that being a Toastmaster means wearing many hats. If you attend 24 meetings in a year, that's the number of meetings we have in a year, then you will have the opportunity of wearing anything up to 24 hats. They might not all be different colored hats. Some of them will be a table topic speaker on 5 or 6 occasions in the year. Some of them will be a timekeeper, which you do twice a year, or are counted twice a year. But nonetheless, over the course of a period like 12 months, 24 meetings, you will indeed wear many hats. It then becomes a matter of managing those hats for your own personal benefit, but also for the club's benefit. Because one thing which we'll talk about later is the importance of the Vice President Education in this, who has an organization type role to try to ensure that as many members as possible have as many opportunities as possible to take on different roles without anyone trying to grab all the opportunities. There are tales, and I could tell you a lot of such tales if I was so minded, of people who join Toastmasters simply to give speeches. Now, giving speeches is an important part of Toastmasters, but for the same person to be taking up too many speaking slots means inevitably that other people are not going to have the opportunity of speaking at all. So the Vice President of Education, whether it's Hui Ling this year or whoever it is next year or the year after, Vice President Education has to coordinate and manage to ensure that everyone's expectations are met as far as they possibly can be. At a time when, for example, 15 years ago, we actually had over 70 members in the club. And you don't have to be a mathematician to realize that if we have just 24 meetings in a year, and we only have, say, 3, maybe 4 speaking slots available at each meeting, the average member is only going to get 1.5 speaking opportunities per year. So if someone tries to grab 1 speaking slot every month, and if the VPE somehow allows that to happen, then other people are going to be very unhappy. So the wearing many hats has to be done in a complementary type of way, so that no one benefits unduly and no one suffers unduly. That's where the phrase many hats, wearing many hats comes in. So Toastmasters International itself has produced this chart which you see on the screen now, and this is describing a typical Toastmasters meeting in a typical club in a typical country around the world. It's not specific to Malaysia, but it's more or less what happens in Malaysia and more or less what happens in MIM, Toastmasters Club of Kuala Lumpur. So at the average club meeting, lasting say 2.5 hours, we will have the opportunity of giving 6 people the opportunity to deliver table topics. We will have a table topics master, sometimes abbreviated to the single word topics master. We will typically have 3 prepared speakers. We will typically therefore have 3 speech evaluators. We will have a general evaluator, and I'm going to leave that particular role out of the discussion for the moment because it does not apply to new members. In fact, it does not apply to anyone in the same club that we're talking about, because by tradition, certainly our tradition in MIM, is we always invite an external experienced Toastmaster to act as general evaluator. And the reason for that is that we want someone with experience so that they can, to use Mise's phrase, add value. And we also need someone from outside our club because they bring different experience to bear on the comments that they are able to make and the evaluation they are able to make. So general evaluator will not normally be performed by a member of our club. You may be asking yourselves, well, how do I get experience as a general evaluator if I can't be a general evaluator at my own club? You do as Mise is now doing on a very regular basis. You attend other clubs' meetings. And if you are good enough and experienced enough and add value enough, you will be called upon with open arms to act as general evaluator at other clubs. I don't keep detailed records of what I've done in the past, but approximately I have been general evaluator at 2,000 Toastmasters meetings over the last 24 years, because it is not unusual for me to act as general evaluator twice each week at other clubs. But I have never been general evaluator at MIM Toastmasters Club of Kuala Lumpur, for the reasons I've already stated. I would not be able to bring different experience, unbiased experience, to a meeting of MIMKL, whereas I can bring my experience and hopefully value to other clubs. So that is why, although it appears on this chart, the general evaluator role will not be discussed this evening. And then the other role players, this is in the center of your screen at the moment, is the speciality roles. Almost all clubs around the world will have a timekeeper or timer for short. They will have an R counter. They will have a grammarian. Sometimes, as we do, we call it a language evaluator, but that's just our custom and practice. And there will be some other roles. Another role, one of such other roles that we have developed at MIM over this last 2 years is what we call Hark Master, H-A-R-K Master, Hark Master. This isn't a new role, but it's a new name. I was in a club 20 years ago now, and we had the equivalent of a Hark, the equivalent of a Hark Master. We called it very more basically, who said that? That is what our Hark Master is about. It is a way of testing the listening skills of people at the meeting to double check whether they have been listening to the speakers and the table topic speakers who performed during that meeting. Who said that? Meaning, who is the best badminton player in the world? Sort of type question. And the answer, I'm afraid, this last 2 days is not Li Zijia. Anyone interested in badminton here? You are winning? Yeah. I was at
Yes.
I was at Axiata Stadium yesterday, and unfortunately, I was there for Li Zijia's latest unfortunate defeat. So, I mean, my own view, I've been following badminton for more years than I've been in Malaysia. That's nearly 30 years. I love badminton, but I'm afraid Li Zijia lets himself down. But that is, tonight is not a discussion about badminton or Li Zijia. It's about this Hark Master role. But the Hark Master will listen himself or herself to everything that goes on at the meeting, and will then test the listening skills of the members in the room. So who said that in someone's speech? Who said that Malaysia has perhaps problems with their rail system? So because someone might have been giving a speech about that. So the Hark Master will test that listening skill. So that's what our Hark Master does. And some clubs will have other roles. We ourselves at MIM used to have every single meeting a Humour Master role. So there would be a 5-minute slot on the agenda every meeting for someone to have prepared a 5-minute humorous speech, not part of Pathways, but just a humorous session, the equivalent of stand-up comedy, if you like, but within Toastmaster customs and rules about not referring to religion, not referring to politics, not relating to sex. So we used to have a Humour Master session at every meeting. And to be honest, I think it's something we lose by not having, but it's usually a question of, well, how can we fit everything into a 2.5-hour meeting? Something has to give. And a couple of years back, what had to give was the humour session. Our club does still have, and I think rightly so, an invocation session where someone, as you know, begins the whole meeting by giving 2 minutes of inspirational or motivational comments about something which is close to their heart, which they believe will be close to the heart of people in the meeting that day. And I think our club benefits from giving people an opportunity to practice their invocation, their motivational skills. And so those are other roles which are filled. That basically is the range of things which happen at our club meetings, and will happen to a large extent at most of the other 350 40 clubs in Malaysia. Any questions about those? We're going to go into each of the roles in more detail in a few minutes' time, but any questions just about the terminology I've been using or the words I've been using? Any questions, please?
None from me.
I'm good as well.
No, so far.
All okay.
Yeah, all good, myself.
Okay. Right. Now, I realize in preparing the next slide, I've actually missed out two of the roles I've just been mentioning, but we'll add those in later, maybe as a handout. So these are the important roles which, in my view, you should be looking at trying in your first year as a member of MIM Toastmasters of KL. And say I realise that I haven't added in the word invocation speaker. And just to emphasise the point, the word is, or the phrase is invocation speaker. The phrase or word is not invocator, as some people occasionally use. There's no such word as invocator. So in our terms at MIM Toastmasters Club, and in any other terms, the phrase is invocation speaker, if I'm not being too pedantic. But the other terms that I use there should be self-explanatory. And in my view, you should try, particularly in consultation with the Vice President's Education, to get yourself built into a program, into an agenda for a Toastmasters meeting over the next few months for each of the roles of timekeeper, R counter, hark master, grammarian or language evaluator, and the speech giver, speaker, and table topics master. Obviously, table topic speaker, you don't have to get yourself on the agenda for, because that is much more impromptu. And the table topics master will be the person responsible for finding volunteers to act as table topic speaker. But that is 7 different roles. And if you add on the invocation speaker, 8 different roles, which I believe you should ensure that you cover, certainly within the first year, or as Wei Meng was saying, he did the 7 roles in the first 6 months, was it, Wei Meng? Six months.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, at the time, I forget who was Vice President of Education when that program was introduced. I think it was probably Chin Wei, was it? Was it Chin Wei, VPE at the time? That
No, it's a Nate. I think Nate is a
and Nate Lai.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that was a particular choice by that officer team. They wanted to try to get everyone to do all these 7 roles in the first 6 months, which is fine. And if it can be done in 6 months without disadvantaging other members who are denied speaking slots or denied role-playing slots, then that's fine. But I'm being a little less ambitious in saying you should try it in your first year. But you do it in 6 months, fine, no problem. Now, let's go through these different roles. Those of you who've even joined in the last couple of weeks will have seen, even if you haven't undertaken the roles yourself, table topic speaker is someone who is invited by the table topics master to give a 2-minute mini speech, impromptu speech, about a subject which you may know nothing about at all. But it enables any member who is brave enough to volunteer to really test themselves in a sort of real world situation, but a real world situation without any downside. If you are asked by your boss at the office or by a senior person in an NGO that you're a member of, if you're asked to stand up and speak for 2 minutes, and if you make a complete hash of it, in other words, you fail miserably, then there may be consequences. If you do that in a Toastmaster meeting and you just can't think what to say, or words come out of your mouth in not the order in which you might have preferred, it does not matter. We have all been there. I can say with all honesty, I have been there. Occasionally, not very often, but certainly occasionally, I have been totally stuck, totally unable to move on beyond good morning, fellow Toastmasters, because my mind perhaps hasn't been working properly, or the table topics master may have given a topic which is really too difficult to answer. But a table topic speaker is nonetheless given this topic and performs to the best of his or her ability on the day. If they do well, that's great. If they do not so well, no problem. And if they do absolutely terribly, again, no problem, because we are all friends in Toastmasters and we are not there to criticize people who do not deliver a perfect speech. We are there to support and help them. So I would certainly encourage, I know Nara, and I mean, one of the people here tonight who has certainly volunteered on a few occasions to be table topic speaker. How about I ask you, Nara, to explain how you felt about answering the table topics that you were given when you were brave enough to volunteer. What was your experience?
So initially it wasn't easy because the first thing is I always, if I'm not going first into the table topics, I'm going second or third to really understand how others are responding to that topic. That at least give me some kind of a baseline or idea what to say, or at least form some kind of a thought process. And then when I initially, it wasn't easy at all because you don't understand the topic, you are put on the spot. But after that, the best part is the feedback which you receive, and that is the important one because that feedback actually helps you to think differently. So next time, again, use the topic, listen to the previous one, use the feedback which you receive, and that actually helped me. And that's why I continue to throw myself into that list because it really helps me to open up and speak about the topic, even though I don't know anything.
Thank you very much, Nara, for sharing that. I mean, I have to say, because I've heard each of your table topics, you have done extremely well. I think you got the best table topic speaker award at least once, did you not?
Yeah, yeah. When I think the others were not there, then probably hard to say.
Oh, well done. So those of you who haven't, or you haven't been in the club long enough yet to have the chance of answering a table topic, please, the next meeting you have, maybe this coming Saturday, volunteer, have a go. You will find it difficult. You will find it painful even, but have a go. And then the next time when you do it, it may still be difficult, but it won't be as difficult the second time round and the third time round. So give it a try. So the skill of impromptu speaking goes with you into your business lives, into your domestic lives as well. It's important. Timekeeper. Yeah, a very important role because, as was said earlier, that Toastmasters, I don't say it enforces us to be punctual, because those of you who've known me for any length of time know that I'm not necessarily the most punctual person around, but nonetheless, it encourages punctuality. And if you know that you are giving speeches of 5 to 7 minutes in length, and you are continuously speaking for 10 minutes, there is something wrong. And it's not necessarily something wrong with the timekeeper and not showing you the lights at the right time. It's probably a problem with you. Hansen Lau, who is, as you know, one of the best speakers we have in the club, he makes no excuse for sharing an embarrassing story about himself. When he came along to Toastmasters for the first time 5 years ago, he was already quite a good speaker, but punctuality was one thing he did not have as a virtue. And when he gave his icebreaker speech, he spoke for over 10 minutes. And that speech, the icebreaker speech, is not even 7 minutes in length. It should be 6 minutes in length. And he went on for 10 minutes. We were too polite for a new speaker, or we didn't want to discourage him too much by shouting, "Hey, Hansen, get off the stage." We let him carry on. But obviously the timekeeper gave his, or it may have been her, report at the end of the meeting and said, Hansen Lau took 10 minutes and 23 seconds. Oh, was Hansen's reaction. He hadn't realized he'd gone on for so long. But I did tell him after, because I like to think I've shared a number of things with Hansen over the years. And I told him about a very distinguished Toastmaster many years ago who gave his icebreaker speech, and not at our club, but at another club. And he went on for 17 minutes, 17 minutes. And because this gentleman was the chairman of the company, this is a corporate club, he was chairman of the company, he was also a Datuk. No one dared to say, Datuk, sit down. And no, they didn't do that. But nonetheless, even the most elevated people, and he was a very good speaker, by the way, but even the most elevated people in society can have problems with punctuality when it comes to speaking. So it's up to the timekeeper to do two things. One is by using lights, if we're in a physical meeting, or by using the system available on Zoom to remind people when they are at 2 minutes from the end, 1 minute from the end, and time itself, and maybe employing a bell or buzzer after they've gone 30 seconds over. That is one thing the timer can do. The other is when he or she gives the report at the end of the meeting, you're perfectly entitled to say, and Jeff Andrew should have spoken for 7 minutes and he spoke for 8 minutes and 32 seconds. Yeah, you're perfectly entitled. In fact, you're expected to say that. No one's going to be upset at you. I mean, Wee Ming, I'm not sure whether he should have told me this last Saturday at the contest. Jeff, you realize you nearly went over time? And I think it's a long time ago now, but I once gave a speech in the MIM contest many years ago, and I did get disqualified from that contest. I discovered afterwards that instead of 7 minutes with an absolute maximum of 7 minutes 30 seconds, I took 7 minutes and 35 seconds, and I was disqualified. I may not have won the contest anyway, because I was up against one of the best speakers MIM Toastmasters Club has ever produced, a gentleman called Lee Swee Seng, now Datuk Lee Swee Seng. I mean, he was the winner, and I think he would have been the winner way ahead of me anyway, whether I'd been disqualified or not. Nonetheless, it's up to the timekeeper to help the speaker by telling him or her that they have gone over time. It's also the responsibility to say if they've gone under time, because in that same contest that I spoke for 7 minutes and 35 seconds and got disqualified, there is another part of the rule book which says if you speak for less than 4 minutes and 30 seconds, you will also be disqualified. And one of my friends in MIM Club, who went on to become a very distinguished Toastmaster at leadership level in Malaysia, he spoke for 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So he was disqualified. So I was disqualified for speaking 7 minutes 35. And this gentleman, I won't name him, but he spoke for 4 minutes and 20 seconds and he was disqualified. But that's what we're about with timekeeping. We are given times to speak. Normally, for most speeches, 5 minutes to 7 minutes, with the timekeeper being the ultimate controller for a reason, to keep us punctual. So, timekeeper, very important role. Let's move on to our counter. This is the role which no one likes doing. Wei Ming or Mizi or Hui Ling, would you like to describe any time that you have been our counter, that you have, well, felt that you did a great job or you didn't do a particularly good job? Any of you like to share?
Jeff, for me, I like this role very much because this role actually helped me to listen to every single words and also counting, do the counting.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it because that does not require me to look to think about the language, but it's really think, okay, Jeff to
Yeah. That's great, Wei Ming. Thank you for telling us that.
Yeah.
In fact, occasionally we have a non-MIM member as an R counter, not usually, because we normally use it as a way of giving our own members the experience. But on this particular day, about 3 or 4 years ago, we had a guy from Tar College Toastmasters Club, a club which I helped to start about 10 years ago. But this guy came over from that club to be our counter. And he totaled up, at the end of his report, at the end of the meeting, he totaled up the number of ums and ahs and ers and ahs and lahs and etc., etc. And it came to something like 385. 385, not all from one person. That was shared between all of us at the meeting. Now, I said to him afterwards, congratulations for telling us how bad we are at having these pause fillers, these speech crutches, because he did us a favor, as far as I was concerned, by being, first of all, demonstrating his listening skills, but secondly, by having the honesty and the courage to tell us how we had all been not very good at controlling our ums and ahs. So our counter, a very important role, but a very difficult role to perform well. And as Wei Ming has just said, and I think this is probably more important for the R counter role than just about any other role, the listening skills it teaches us as Toastmasters and as people, because we have to listen. If the meeting starts at 9:30 and the meeting finishes at 12 o'clock, or at least all the parts of the meeting which are to be evaluated finishes at 12 o'clock, that means the R counter is having to listen carefully, attentively to every single word for 2.5 hours. And that's a challenge to anyone's ears, but it's so important. And the lessons we can take from that into our business lives and into our social lives is huge. So what Wei Ming says is absolutely right. Take on the role and really apply yourself to the role for that 2.5 hours. You may not have to do the role again for another 6 months or another 12 months. So it isn't as though you're going to have to do this onerous task every single meeting, but for the meeting you do get allocated the R counter role, please take it seriously. If you think you're being kind to members by saying, oh, I didn't hear any ums and ahs, no, I didn't hear any at all. And this person and that person and this other person, no ums and ahs, no pause fills of any kind. You are not being helpful to them, because it almost certainly is not true. I like to think that I don't give many ums and ahs. Wasn't the case years and years ago. I went to a meeting, it wasn't Toastmasters, but a bit like Toastmasters, even before I came over to Malaysia. And for those of you who heard my speech the other day, I used to stammer and stutter very badly when I was a teenager and even into my 20s. And so me giving a 2-minute table topic, to use the Toastmaster phrase, it was an arduous task for me, and it was made even more arduous by knowing that there was someone in the room who was going to be counting all the ums and ahs that I made. And the person who reported on my ums and ahs may or may not have been kind with the number they gave, but I was given 65 as my number of ums and ahs in a 2-minute table topic. But I learned from that. I learned, well, if I'm inflicting that pain on an audience, I need to do something about it. So it was one of the things which helped me to get over my stammering and stuttering difficulties. The knowledge that at a Toastmaster meeting or something similar, there would be someone counting all those ums and ahs. So don't try to be kind to people by saying they didn't utter any ums and ahs. Tell them the truth and make sure your listening skills are good enough to be able to tell them the truth. Everyone benefits. Right, the Harkmaster. And now I've never acted as Harkmaster at MIM. I don't know whether Wei Ming or Hui Ling or Mizi have taken on that role, but Mizi might have left for his other meeting now.
Yeah, no, I'm still here. I think, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Have you been Harkmaster?
Yep, I think it's a dual role between Harkmaster and Grammarian, if I'm not mistaken. Yep.
Busy, the Hubmaster is actually together with the R counters.
Yep, counter, sorry.
Correct. So I have taken this role more than 3 times in a year, in this 1 year. So the Hubmaster is also a part of the listening, where we need to listen to the content and then ask questions by end of the R counter report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what came over to you as the person who was playing the role of Harkmaster that you learned from that particular process?
For that particular process, it's really about same thing, same as our counter, we need to be active listening, but this time we need to be active listening on the content. For example, what Jeff have shared, then we have to pick up some of the key contents and then ask the Toastmaster the Toastmaster of the day, the joining the day, so that they will it's like a way to test the listening skill for all the participants.
Yeah. Thank you, Wei Ming, and thank you, Mizi. Okay. Grammarian or language evaluator. Now, there are some people who are afraid of that role because they themselves feel that their own language skills are not sufficient to enable them to take on the role properly. Now, I have a different background, obviously, because English is my first language, and I know very well that it is either the second or the third language for most of you. But I would say, please give it a try, because a Toastmasters meeting is not an English language class, but we're not teaching or not attempting to teach people to be perfect with their use of English. We're trying to help them to improve their use of English. And if, as the language evaluator, you can just help a few people at any one meeting to improve their skills with language, then you will have done a good job. But nonetheless, there are some underlying points which it's useful to be aware of, and that is, what are you supposed to be commenting on? You're supposed to be commenting on the easy part is the use of the word of the day or the phrase of the day, because that's just a listening exercise, to use Wei Ming's phrase. Yeah, anyone should be able to count, well, did Measy use the word of the day 3 times or 5 times? That should be quite easy to do. It needs careful listening skills, as with our counter. You have to be listening attentively for the full 2.5 hours of the meeting. Nonetheless, that's fairly straightforward. It's when you get to the elements of language which aren't so obvious. Did someone use the correct pronunciation? Or sometimes pronunciation, like beauty, is in the eye of the beholder, or in this case, in the ear of the beholder. And if the old joke is, the Americans will say tomatoes, the English will say tomatoes. Doesn't mean that either of them is correct and the other is incorrect. They're just different. So please don't pick up anyone in that way in a language evaluator report. But if someone uses a phrase or a word which isn't going to be understood if it's incorrectly pronounced, then that is a problem. And it is the language evaluator's task to suggest, because in Toastmasters reporting, we suggest things. We don't tell people, we suggest things. So pronunciation is one thing. Good phrases and bad phrases. Usually we can all comment on what sounds good to us, what sounds effective. Ahmed Fakri in our club is someone who uses, his English language skills are not brilliant. I mean, he would be honest enough to admit, but nonetheless, his knowledge of correct English skills is better than most, and he uses the English language very effectively in his speeches. So we can say, yeah, that phrase used by Ahmed is great. One that I'm quite happy if people pick up from my speeches occasionally, because I use this phrase just occasionally in speeches. When I was describing my first ever arrival in Malaysia back in the mid-90s, I said, I drove in from the old Subang airport to Kuala Lumpur in a taxi, and suddenly we went over the brow of a hill, and there in the distance were the gleaming, glistening, glittering Petronas Twin Towers. Gleaming, glistening, glittering Petronas Twin Towers. That's an example of what they call alliteration, where the first 2 letters of each of the words, each of the 3 words, are identical: gleaming, glistening, glittering. Experts prove that a phrase which includes good alliteration will be listened to and retained in the memory of the audience members for far longer than just using, okay, in the distance I saw the lights of Petronas Twin Towers. The same sort of description, but not as effective. So it's up to the language evaluator to highlight those good points and also to suggest areas for improvement as well. I better move on down the list. The speaker role, I mean, that is quite obvious, and each of you will have a mentor by now, I'm sure. So discuss with your mentor about the speeches you are going to give as for a prepared speech within the Pathways program. So that's a very important role, and maybe in the first year of your membership, maybe you'll give 5 or even 6 speeches if you attend most meetings. So the speaker role is important, and the table topics master is a role which even fairly new Toastmasters can undertake. You may be asked by the Vice President of Education or the Toastmaster of the day to select topics within a particular theme, or he or she may give you a choice as to what theme you're going to use for your table topics, but spending time preparing your table topics when your table topics master is very important. It's a very valuable role that we need to play. I suggest for this meeting, this session this evening, I won't go into detail about the last three topics there, table topics evaluator, Toastmaster today, and speech evaluator, because the likelihood is you won't be performing those roles in the next few months. Each of the roles in different ways require a little background experience of Toastmasters and attending Toastmasters meetings, not just being a Toastmaster member, but attending meetings. So I won't go into that detail now. What I will go on to really wind up this session is the skill sets which I believe you will benefit from by applying your experience, by applying your skills within a Toastmaster, a series of Toastmasters meetings. Several of you, particularly Wei Ming and Mizi and Hui Ling, have emphasized the importance of listening. Somehow Toastmasters is thought of by people who come into the organization as being all about public speaking. It is about public speaking, certainly. Or it's all about leadership, because we have a tagline that says Toastmasters where leaders are made. Yeah, definitely speaking and leadership are important, but listening is probably even more important because it ties in to just about everything else we do. Just being able to speak and just being able to lead aren't enough. We have to be able to listen. Hui Ling was mentioning earlier about the organization, the planning side. Yeah, you will learn these skills and you will practice these skills in various of these roles that you play at Toastmasters Club meetings. So you will be able to take those skill sets which you develop into your business lives. The importance of adaptability and flexibility is important. I mean, for someone like Hui Ling in her role as VPE, vitally important, because I'm sure, I mean, she's now been VPE for the last 12 Toastmasters meetings. And I'm sure there's not been a single meeting when she hasn't had to change something on the agenda because someone pulls out, maybe at the last minute, but certainly before the meeting begins. Is Hui Ling still with us to add anything to that comment?
Yes, I'm still around.
Okay. I mean, would you like to add anything to my just two-word comment there about the importance of adaptability and flexibility as it applies to you as VPE? It also applies to individual members as well.
Sorry, because it was not very clear. You said you asked if I want to add on to the about what?
For adaptability and flexibility.
Oh yeah, yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, in Toastmasters, as what Jeff mentioned, it's always Toastmaster plays different hats, and sometimes last minute some challenges do come up or some things to pop up unavoidable. So we will have to just step up and take up the role. There's always, I always believe, you know, the more we give, the more we take, in a sense that if we volunteer the role, definitely there will be something that we will gain along the way. In fact, nowadays it's much better because we have this mentorship program where the junior members are encouraged to play the roles. Those days, it was even worse. Like those days, sometimes there were even less people and we had to take 2 or 3 roles at one time. But now, most of the time in the meetings, one person will only take 1 role. So just take up the challenge and yeah, definitely you will learn something. And just want to share one that's on the screen of a Jeff's screen, the word creativity. Yeah, I think one of the roles that will definitely encourage creativity is table topics, being a table topic master. because there are many ways we can actually create topics on how to encourage speakers to speak of the God. There are many ways we can do it, not only like giving them, asking them to choose number. Those days I remember for just sharing those days in physical meetings many years ago, and someone will bring some props in a basket or in a plastic bag. You just pick up the props, or it can be another way, for example, which I learned from a club in Ipoh, is that the table topic master will encourage 2 or 3 speakers in one of the topic. For example, the table topic master will flash the word year, and then the speaker will add year, and then later, after 30 seconds, the table topic master will flash the word happy. Then you are supposed to use the word year and happy in a sentence. That's how it actually encourages our creativity. Yeah, that's all. Over to you.
That's great. Thank you, Hui-Ling. Yeah, so let's just before I go on to creativity. So adaptability. Naren was saying earlier that he has had to unfortunately withdraw from being art counselor on Saturday morning because of business. So someone has now stepped in to take on his role. That's how we help each other in Toastmasters. We have a phrase which was first coined, I think it was just about the year I started in Toastmasters. We had an international president who decided the slogan for her year as international president would be friends helping friends succeed. And really, even though it's not been the Toastmasters slogan for over 20 years, it's stayed in my mind ever since that this is what Toastmasters generally is about. We help our friends to succeed, and in so doing, we help ourselves to succeed. So, yeah, flexibility and adaptability is required, whether it be in the program setting, which is Hui-Ling's main responsibility, or whether it be in individual role-playing aspects. It could be because we're 50% of the time in the Zoom era, that sometimes the person who is acting as timekeeper loses their connection. Someone else needs to step in and take on that role of timekeeper with literally 10 seconds warning. So we all need to have that spirit of adaptability and flexibility. Then, as Hui-Ling has mentioned, creativity in table topics master role, but creativity also in reporting to the members at the end of a meeting. The way, and I think MIM has taken a lead in this respect, the way individual timekeepers and R counters and language evaluators have added creativity to the way they give their reports at the end of a meeting, rather than just using the human voice, is to our credit, our combined credit, but also to the individual credit of the individual role players who've taken on the willingness to be creative. And then finally, because we are a speaking organization, as well as a leadership organization, as well as a listening organization, that speaking performance is vitally important for anything we do in our Toastmasters roles. And I think by individuals like the 4 of you new members who are here tonight, when you are giving your report as our counter or as language evaluator, or you're giving a table topic, or you're acting as table topics master, you are practicing your speaking ability. And those are the core fundamentals of a Toastmaster's job, to speak well and speak effectively. So we need to practice, continuously practice our speaking skills, and taking on the various roles we've been talking about this evening is an opportunity for us to improve and enhance our speaking performance. Okay, well, those are the things that I felt needed to be said this evening. Now, Mizi invited me to take on the role of facilitator tonight. I don't know whether there are other things which Mizi had hoped I would cover, but haven't done so. If Mizi is still with us, and he may well be in his other meeting now.
I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm still with you, Jeff.
Okay, that's great, Mizi.
Yeah.
Are there any other things that you had wanted me to cover, which I haven't done so?
In my opinion, you have covered everything that is needed to be done. I would just like to add, especially on the language evaluator. Let me be honest, it's one of the most difficult role playing, right? But when I spoke to you and you really explained to me what's the value, I was able to do it. I even did it at another club in a Bahasa Malaysia setting.
Good.
So what I'm
Sorry, I shouldn't say congratulations. I should say Shabbos.
But to me, as part of my learning to become better speakers, I do go to other clubs and I don't give speeches. I really take up roles from our counter to timekeeper to grammarian, right? Because that's where you learn, right? And you add value, and it is for your own benefit, right? So it is very, very important for us if we want to become better speakers, better communicators. These are the key elements that we need to learn. It is not how do I say, it is not worthwhile. It's worthwhile. The value is immense. So I thank you very much, Jeff, for this present. This is how I understand it. And my sincere wish is that all the members, the new members, to understand as how I understand it. Take heart, volunteer, do it. There's no loss. As VPE just said, the more you give, the more you get. Is that right, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. So thank you very much, Mizi, and thank you for inviting me to do this workshop this evening. I hope to have shared some of my experience, but I wanted to ensure that it wasn't just me speaking for 90 minutes, which would have been pretty painful for me and for you, but it was an opportunity to bring in, obviously, the relatively more experienced people in our group tonight, which is Shui Ling, Mizi, and Wei Ming, but also to give those of you who are brand new and learning, obviously, virtually everything you've heard, even though I have found has been in Toastmasters for, well, it was in Toastmasters for 3 years. Even that is relatively inexperienced. So I wanted to give all of you the opportunity of contributing to this session to make the session go better. But my final words would be not only what Mizi has just said about the importance of volunteer and contribute for your own benefit, but also to the benefit of the club, but also please ensure you give yourselves a chance to learn more by attending every meeting. It's all very well paying your subscription for 12 months, which entitles you to attend 24 club meetings. It also entitles you to attend meetings of other Toastmasters clubs in KL, in Malaysia, in the world. But it's not enough just to have the opportunity of attending meetings, it's a matter of attending meetings. Mizi, in my view, because I've obviously only known Mizi for just over a year now, he has done what very few other new members do. He goes what we call clubbing. I don't mean night clubbing, and certainly in Mizi's case that wouldn't be appropriate anyway, but to go clubbing in terms of visiting other Toastmasters clubs. You will find by doing that you learn more, and you learn more quickly. You learn that other clubs sometimes do things slightly differently from MIM. It's not a problem. In 99% of those cases, what they do will be fine. In the same way, 99% of what we do is fine, just at the edges that may do things slightly differently. Not to worry, but you will learn more quickly by going to these other clubs, but particularly by attending our 24 meetings that you are entitled to attend in a year for your subscription. That is definitely something you should try to do. If business crops up, if illness becomes an issue, if domestic issues at home become a problem, you may have to miss 1 or 2 meetings. That's life. But try to attend every meeting that it is possible to attend, and you will get more out of your experience than you would by just treating it as oh, I'll go along if I have the time to do so. Make time. That is what is really important. It's only 2.5 hours every 2 weeks. It's not long. So please try to do it. And you will be the people who benefit from that. Any final questions from you in the final couple of minutes we have?
Jeff, before the end of the session, I would like to just highlight 2 things. Just a reminder to the members.
Yeah, please. Go ahead.
So I go ahead now.
Huling, I got to leave. My turn is next. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for attending this. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Huling. Thank you, guys.
Yes,
Thank you, Mizi.
yes.
Enjoy your next meeting.
Thank you, Mizi. See you, Mizi.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye.
No,
All
you
right,
can
I just want to
continue.
Okay,
Yeah,
Vinny,
I just
over to
want
you.
to take 2 minutes to just recap to the members, just a reminder to perhaps you have been briefed by your mentors. Just as the guideline in this club, for anyone to give a speech, a member, even a senior member like myself, would have to play a role before the speaking session, before the speaking slot, because we have limited slots. And it's also to be fair to everyone. So everyone will have to play a role. It's like alternate, you play a role and then you give a speech. For those who have started with a speech, the next will be role and then role and speech. So it should be a role first, followed by a speech. That's the first thing I would like to share. That's the general guideline for even senior members like Jeff and myself. Secondly, just a recap, in case if you need some resources, if you see in our Toastmasters WhatsApp group, in the MMKL all member group, and if you go to info, and then you click more, there are many links. The first one is the shared drive. The shared drive is where you can get the role players form, like R-Counter, Grammarian, the form, timer form. These forms these forms come with the format so that it will be easier for you to fill in. Now, this will be very helpful, especially if it's an online meeting, because if it's a physical meeting, our president is kind enough to have printed our SAA have, and our president have printed a set for physical meeting. But for online meeting, you can find the resource under MIMKL info, the shared drive. You can find under the role players. You can find the form for each role. That's the first thing. And apart from that, you can also plan your meeting, because like that in the info, the last link, which is MIMKL meeting planner, you can click inside. So the dates are already prefixed. So you can plan your roles and your speech by filling in the planner. It's an Excel form. For the speaker role, for example, R-Counter, Grammarian, you can straight away, for example, Grammarian, you can key in the name there. But for the speaker role, you can only fill in under the reserve, the bottom part, where it's under the speech booking list. You cannot fill in under the project speech. The project speech can only be filled in by VP, but the speech booking list, if you want to give your speech, you just fill in under speech booking list, the bottom part. But for other roles, you can fill in based on the row of the row, the row respective to the row. So these are the 2 important links where you can, that will help in the meeting and help you to play your role effectively in the meeting, and also to plan your roles your roles on certain days. All right, thank you. And back to you,
Willing,
Jeff.
Willing, can you please post those links into the WhatsApp chat, please?
It's in the WhatsApp group, as I mentioned. It's already,
Okay.
if you go to WhatsApp group, MIMKL, you have a phone in front of you, MIMKL all member group, right? You go to group info. When you click the top right, the three dots, you can see the first group info, and group info, read more. So all the links are there. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Wheeling.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Really sorry, I'm Jacqueline here. I don't see any link from the WhatsApp group.
If you go, you are
from
in
the
the MTL all member group, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. And then, all right. You can see my screen. It's a bit small. I think you can, but anyway.
I think I managed to find it because they have to read three dot, read more than
Yeah, three dot, and then on the top right, the three dot, and then you click it. The first description, group info, and you click group info, right? Group info, and then you can see discussions on Toastmasters matters and read more. There's one you click read more, then you can see all the links.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay?
now it's managed to see. Yeah.
Whoever still have problem, you can text me personally. Over to you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wheeling. That's important extra information for people to have. Thank you. Any final points which any of the other participants would like to make?
If knowledge grows by sharing. So thank you so much for taking time and sharing such an important piece of information. Really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure, Naren, and it's my pleasure to the rest of you as well. But as I said at the beginning, you have invested your time in this evening, so I thank you for doing so, and I hope you will get the return on investment of your time multiplied many, many times over during your Toastmaster career. You will, I mean, I have benefited from my Toastmasters membership over nearly 25 years. I'm sure you can benefit in the same way if you give it a chance and if you play as many roles as possible, as often as possible, and you learn from the experience of doing so. Thank you, Naren. Any of the others with the final comment?
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Helen.
Yeah, so just a bit sharing that I'm really glad I joined this club and particularly this session because I have seen a lot of things that I didn't really see back in my old club. Like the fact that general evaluator has to be someone outside of the club. There's roles such as Heart Master, Human Master, Invocators, which are something pretty fresh to me, pretty exciting if you ask me. And I'm really looking forward to be part, especially like I think I will be the accountant come Heart Master coming this meeting. But I hope that I can I will be very excited to take more roles in going forward. And I really appreciate and I really look forward to learn a lot to continue my Toastmaster journey here. Thank you.
Thank you, Harlan, and thank you for being willing to share what you've learned from your JB experience. And because you have that extra experience of Toastmasters that many of our new members do not have, then you can add value to our club more quickly than most people can. So thank you very much, Harlan, and I look forward to playing your role in place of Naren on Saturday. That's great. Thank you. Any other final comments?
Just a huge thank you, Jeff. Huiling and Mizi has left, and Wiming for taking your time to teach us. Yeah, it's so clear now. So looking forward to be part of the team.
Okay, we look forward to having you as part of the group. So thank you very much and good luck to you.
James. So actually I'm Jacqueline here. Actually, just now I joined the meeting date. So maybe I have a quick introduction on myself. Basically, my current job role actually is more on the project management and the people management. This is the first time that I joined the Toastmaster club. And then my main objective actually is one to improve my presentation skill and listening skill, and also I think the speaking performance. So based on this objective, I think what do you think that which role should I start with? The first role, R counter or timekeeper? I'm not sure.
I think either of those two roles would be the best place to start. I mean, I put the 8 roles because I've now added onto my slide the term I missed out of an invocation speaker. But those first 8 on the list, I think timekeeper and R counter are the 2 which anyone can do. I mean, obviously, we'll have the materials to support you, which Hui Ling just described. But those are roles which you can do, providing you just use your listening skills to apply to them. So either of those 2, just ask Hui Ling when you would like to take on the timekeeper role or the R counter role.
Okay.
So for all of you, you will benefit more the more that you do. It's almost impossible not to learn to improve by practicing.
Yeah.
So thank you all for being here. Thank you particularly to Mizi, who's now left us for another Toastmasters meeting, but thank you to Hui Ling and to Wei Ming as well for adding their experience into the various discussions we've had during the evening. And thank you to those 4 of you, of our new members who've arrived this evening, maybe with the exception of Hao Lan, who knows some of the things from his JB experience, but nonetheless, all 4 of you are learning about MIN Club Kuala Lumpur for the first time. So I thank you for investing that time this evening, and I very much look forward to seeing you virtually or in person again in the very near future. But I'm going to close the Zoom call now. Wei Ming, as our Zoom master, will shortly press the button leave, and our